This short video is a training aid for instructors teaching students the art of flying the traffic pattern in a PA28 at Hub Air. It should never be used on its own. Such material must always be accompanied by an instructor's briefing.
You're lined up on the runway, feet on the brakes, control column slightly back. Gradually advance the throttle to reach maximum RPM, then release the brakes, and keep your eyes focused far ahead. The aircraft starts accelerating. Use your feet to keep it straight, and as you reach rotation speed, with quick glances inside, smoothly lift off and set a pitch attitude of about 8 degrees.
Once you've initiated the rotation and set an 8-degree pitch up, maintain that climb attitude by keeping your eyes outside, with the nose on the horizon. You may make very small adjustments if the speed is clearly off from the target, but avoid chasing the airspeed. Do not change your pitch just to follow speed fluctuations. Passing 300 feet, AGL, in the climb, lower the nose slightly to accelerate to 90 knots. Then, confirm that the flaps are fully retracted and continue your climb. At 500 feet, AGL, during the climb, start your turn onto the crosswind leg, keeping the bank angle limited to 20 degrees. You could technically go up to 30 degrees, but that's not considered good operating practice. In the traffic pattern, always pick a visual reference point off the wingtip. Then, look ahead and continue turning until that reference point comes directly in front of you for a 90-degree turn. Above all, do not rely on the directional gyro for this. Once you reach circuit altitude, lower the nose slightly to establish the cruise attitude, reduce power to maintain 90 knots, and trim the aircraft accordingly. To turn at the correct distance on the downwind leg, check while on crosswind that the end of the runway is about 45 degrees behind your wing. That's your cue to start the turn to downwind. And above all, don't use any ground reference points for this. Once you're properly established on the downwind leg, meaning the runway should appear roughly aligned with your wingtip, set a heading parallel to the runway, correcting as necessary for any crosswind from the left or right. Make your radio call, then check your fuel quantities and, if needed, switch to the other tank. Abeam the runway threshold, extend flaps to the first notch, and apply carb heat if necessary. The airspeed will gradually decrease toward 80 knots, which you should maintain. If the speed doesn't decrease quickly enough, adjust the power as needed to maintain 80 knots, then retrim the aircraft. Continue in downwind until you see the runway threshold about 45 degrees behind your wing. Do not take any ground references for the turn. Turn and reduce power simultaneously to maintain roughly 1,700 RPM, or even 1,500 RPM, and extend the second stage of flaps at the same time. It's important to perform all three actions simultaneously to avoid being too fast or too high on the base leg. Once established on base, your airspeed should stabilize around 75 knots. This is the point where you assess whether you're too high or too low and take the necessary corrective actions. It's crucial to make this judgment on base, because by the time you're on final, it will be too late to correct your glide path effectively. As you approach the runway centerline, anticipate the turn onto final. Once established, extend flaps to the third stage and check the carburetor heat off. Then complete the final checklist. Maintain 65 knots and control your glide path. If a poppy is available, use it. Aim for 2 white and 2 red lights. Control your airspeed with power and your glide path with the control stick. If there's a headwind, don't forget to apply the appropriate speed corrections according to the SOPs. During the final checklist, make sure your heels are on the floor to avoid braking upon touchdown. If a go-around becomes necessary, execute it smoothly. No abrupt movements. Gently raise the nose a few degrees and perform a go-around flaps call-out and perform the procedure. Set the climb attitude while retracting the flaps step by step back to 0. Don't forget to obtain the landing clearance. It's mandatory before touching down at a controlled airport. About 3 to 5 feet, 1 to 1.5 meters above the runway, look far ahead and gradually raise the nose to reduce the rate of descent. Smoothly reduce power to idle, if not already, at the same time. The goal? Transition from a descent to level flight just above the runway while bleeding off airspeed. As airspeed decreases, gently increase back pressure to keep the aircraft just above the ground. Maintain the aircraft parallel to the ground just above the surface. The aircraft will naturally start to sink. Each time it does, you gently hold it off, refusing to let it touch down. Continue to do so until the main landing gear makes contact first, with the nose wheel slightly raised. The sink rate should be close to 0 at touchdown. Let the aircraft settle on the main wheels. Don't force it down. Maintain directional control using rudder pedals, not ailerons. A common mistake is to simply leveling the aircraft parallel to the ground, letting it touch down on all 3 wheels, or worse, on the nose wheel first. If you feel the landing isn't going well, execute a go-around immediately. The key is patience and smooth control. Avoid abrupt pitch changes. Apply the brakes gently, only if needed, and only after the aircraft has slowed below 50 knots and the 50 call has been made. Common tips. Look far ahead, not directly in front. This helps judge height and attitude. Avoid overflaring, can cause a stall and hard landing, or underflaring, leads to a flat or nose wheel landing. Each aircraft type and weight will require slightly different timing and pitch rate.